G'day, Daniel Watson here from Vertech IT Services. I'm freshly back from Outward Bound with a bit of a bushier beard and a sharper outlook on life. Today, this is cybersecurity tip number 85. I'm going to talk about risk management. Okay, so when talking about risk management, what we're looking at is how we handle any risks within the organisation, specifically with regards to IT, but as a business, you need to have a general wider conversation as well. And there's 4 ways you can deal with any risk, right? The simplest thing is that you can avoid it. All right, in IT, you could go back to paper and pen. You could go back to sending snail mail. You could deal with cash transactions and setting up bricks and mortar stores. Not so realistic these days, is it? One other way you can handle it is you can transfer the risk to someone else. You can have contract out that risk and have them take care of any potential bad outcomes. We call that insurance. You give them cash, they assume the risk for you, right? Interestingly enough, when I talk to insurance brokers, only 6%, maybe between 6 and 25%, depending on the broker and the type of business, of companies actually have any cyber insurance, which must mean that they're doing so much with respect to dealing with the risk that they don't have to worry about it. So maybe there's two more things. You could accept the risk. You can just go, well, these are what the risks are. We're completely aware of them. And we think that the likelihood of this versus the potential impact is so low that we're just not going to bother dealing with that risk. We'll carry on regardless. Now, most of the people that I engage with have not actually conducted any such exercise where they've examined what those risks are, done any kind of quantitative analysis like, how much would it cost me if my server completely failed per hour? Like, do they know? And so often we have this conversation, we work it out, like, okay, you've got 20 staff, you've paid them $25 per hour, so you've got an immediate multiplication there of how much it's going to cost you per hour for these guys sitting around doing nothing. But then there's actually, what's the work they're trying to do, and then go down and what is the production lost in terms of how is that affecting a project or a contract that we have. Maybe it might affect whether that gets renewed or not with the systems being down because we haven't brought it up within a few hours, in a way that's acceptable to our clients. How does a cybersecurity breach affect our standing in the market and our reputation? Could it be an extinction level event for us, right? So you've got to think about that kind of thing. When you're accepting the risks, are you aware of all the risks? Have you had a conversation with anybody about it? The last thing you can do is mitigate the risks, right? Putting control measures in place. And that's what we do as an IT company who focuses on cybersecurity. There is loads of low-cost controls that can be put in place to reduce the likelihood of any one risk happening. And when you're looking across all the possibilities and what kind of things are in place, that's what we've got frameworks that help us deal with listing these out and making it easy to categorize them and understand what's likely to happen versus, an interesting thing. Lots of people will have fire and general theft insurance as a standard. But to be fair, in my time as an IT company owner, I've encountered one company that had a fire and one company that had a flood, all right? And they were quite devastating at the time, and they were covered by insurance to a certain extent. But we've seen a lot more businesses come to us with ransomware attacks and things which have cost them a lot of money to restore their systems and been very disruptive. But most of them do not carry cyber insurance. It's starting to increase now as people understand that even with all the IT controls in place, the possibility of getting smashed by a ransomware still exists, right? No matter what we do, we still have to prepare for it, and how we respond is a mark of how well we're doing as an IT business. Thankfully, it hasn't happened to us for a while, but we prepare for it. And you need to understand what those risks are in your organization. So it starts with a cybersecurity risk assessment. For a small business, it might be as little as $2,500 to get an actionable report which categorises all the risks that we can foresee in the organisation as a result of doing interviews within your organisation, visually inspecting what you have, running scanning tools on the interior and exterior of your network. We pull this stuff apart and then give you recommendations, which you can either implement yourself, or you can take to your current IT company, or you can ask us to have a crack at doing it for you. All right, so as G.I. Joe said, knowing is half the battle. Cheers.